Good morning and warm welcome to all. I welcome you to this second session. Uh, we have with us Dr. Vinod Kumar, Principal Scientist, ICAR, IGFRI, SRRS Dharwad. Sir is going to talk on forage seeds, current status, and way forward to address intensive livestock production systems. Sir, you are audible as well as visible, and your presentation is also visible. You may start, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Very good morning to you all. I hope that by this time, I think sizable number of participants have joined, and hopefully they are in the process of joining. Today's topic is fodder seed production, especially not going in detail about the fodder seed technology. Just I want to make you or apprise you of the situation where we are, where we stand with regards to fodder seed production is concerned, and what are the challenges we face, and what are the opportunities in this, and how to overcome these difficulties or these hurdles in case of fodder making available or fodder seed in the market. As you all know, my name is Dr. Vinod Kumar, presently working as a Principal Scientist Seed Technology and looking after the seed production aspect, seed sale, and also the farmers participate to seed production at this station. I'm very happy to interact with you all since the audience or the participants are majority are young scientists or the PhD graduates. So they will be fresh or new in their respective careers, or they are about to join their respective careers. And hopefully this lecture of mine will help to ignite at least some sort of awareness about the fodder, because in general, the forage crops are neglected crops. They are not fall under mainstream agriculture. So that's why just hopefully in next 1 hour or something, I wish to just apprise you of the situation. My lecture is divided into these broad categories, 5 categories, and I will be covering these categories in the next 1 hour. Just to apprise you about the facts that how rich we are with respect to the population, animal population or livestock population is, India is the largest livestock holding country in the world. Approximately it supports around 55% of world buffalo, 16% of cattle, 20% of goats, 4% of world sheep. Apart from these, India is also the house of around 18% of human population too. But the major concern or major worry for all of us is just we have only 2.3% of world geographical area. So you just imagine how much load we are having with respect to the population, that to be sustained on a very limited area, that is just 2.3%. So you imagine the load, the productivity we need to obtain per unit area is very, very important. And apart from that, just we are also having the resource of just 4% of world water, this fresh water. So this is also one of the alarming fact with regards to the sustainability of so much of such a big population on a limited geographical area. So this is all the figure says the population wise we are rich, but the productivity wise we are very, very poor with respect to all these populations. Hence we need to target, or we need to improve our productivity so that the sustainability should be obtained on a larger scale. Just to throw some light on the livestock situation, the livestock sector almost contributes around 26% of agriculture output, to the 26% to the agriculture GDP, whereas the livestock sector contributes around 4% to the total GDP of the country, and which is expected to be increased by 2020 or 2025. and it also provides 70% employment in rural areas. As many of us are from rural areas, we all know that the livestock component and the contribution of livestock to the farming community, to their livelihood, to their well-being, whatever it is. So most often livestock is the only source of cash income for sustainable farms and also serves as insurance in the event of crop failures. This is a very well known fact that wherever there is drought, wherever there is dry land, or wherever there is rain-fed area, so livestock certainly helps in maintaining a family, generates a lot of income, and they sustains the family. So this is also very well known fact. Livestock also provides drought power, rural transport, manure, fuel, milk, and meat. You all know that drought power, especially the area where I am working as in Karnataka, the northern parts of Karnataka. Animals are really these bullocks and all these are used as drought power. Then rural transport through cart system and all this manure. Nowadays we all talk about what is that? The organic farming, the organic culture. We all want to eat the organic food. So only source of manure is basically from livestock sector. The fuel also used as fuel. You all know that the dung cakes and all these are largely used as a fuel in majority part of the rural areas. Milk and meat, you all know that, and all other products we all use or we all consume to mitigate or to meet our daily nutritional requirement. And as I have told, the share of GDP is around 4% livestock sector. And livestock systems in India, comparison with other countries, there is really there is difference in cultivating these livestock systems. In India, the scale is very small holder. Unit size is very small. The small and marginal farmers owns maximum number of animals in our country. Whereas when we compare with the developing country, their herd size, their scale is very large. We just can't compare with their scale. So due to these small holdings or due to these small animal numbers, there is a lot of difficulties, or there is to go for mechanization, and there are so many issues in that regard, which I want to apprise you, need not to be discussed in detail. Whereas the enterprise farm here in India, it is very much diverse, it is very much different, whereas in developed country, it is highly specialized. Like the South American countries and all these things, their enterprise farm is really the totally beef industry, to mitigate the beef industry. In India, the objective is multiple objectives, whereas in developed countries, it is highly profit oriented. As we say that agriculture is the backbone of Indian economy, whereas in case of the South American countries, the beef industry is the backbone of their economy. Likewise, the objectives are totally different. Market destination, we highly local or highly regional, whereas in case of the developed countries, it is global. They think of global export. They export a lot of dairy products, including meat, including beef, including milk, including ghee, whatever it is, cheese and everything. And in India, the market form is highly informal sector, whereas in developed countries, it is highly formal sector. So there is what I mean to convey over here is there is a lot of difference with respect to the objective or with respect to the livestock production system when we compare with ourselves with the rest of the world. And in India, the majority of animal rearing nowadays we are following is the stall-fed system, whereas in the rest of the world, it is a grazing-based system. They develop large pastures, they cultivate and they allow the animals to graze. Again, there are so many issues. We have small holdings, small areas. The farmers which are very much marginal or very much small, they own around 60% of the livestock population in our country. So they can't afford a development of grazing lands. There are production of pasture in their land. So certainly they are highly dependent on collecting the resources, the fodder resources from nearby areas and the crop residues. These are the things they are using for their animal livestock rearing. Then coming to importance or significance of fodder crops, as you all know that livestock rearing is integral part of various farming systems in our country. We always talk about integrated farming and all these things. And without livestock, we just can't imagine our farming systems. And these arable agriculture contributes a major fodder resource in the form of crop residues. As you all know that majority of our crops residues, we like sorghum, like bajra, like maize, majority of millets, and you take majority of legumes. Almost the dual purpose we use, one for grain purpose, another for the crop residue to be used for rearing our livestock. And the most alarming factor in our country, or the thing is that the cultivated area for fodder just it is estimated to be around 4% of the total cultivable area. You imagine the population level, as I have told, around 17% of world livestock population is in our country, and which we need to be sustained on just 4% of the total cultivatable area. You imagine that's why the dearth with respect to the availability of green fodder, availability of dry fodder, availability of other crop residues. You all know that this is a problem within our country. Because of that, majority of our animals we fail to produce or we underproduce the products out of these animals. The total area of permanent pasture and grassland is about 12.4 million hectare, or around 4% of the country's geographical area. Again, this is one of the alarming issue. Permanent pastures and grasslands, you all know that, because every village or every dedicated area like the grazing lands, they all are almost degraded or encroached by humans, or encroached by other stubby weeds, and all these things. We hardly get any palatable fodder from any of these pastures and grasslands. So I think their contribution to the requirement is now very, very limited. Neither government is spending or thinking of protection of these grazing lands or permanent pastures or rejuvenation, or nothing that sort of activities are being carried out on a large scale in the country, so that they are the really, to tell you frankly, our entire thing is that these are the permanent pastures and grasslands are the gray areas, or the virgin areas where we can tap and mitigate our big deficit. But the thing is that it needs huge investment and huge willpower to tap that. So also the forest and their associated grasslands and fodder trees are another major source of grazing for fodder collection. Certainly, for tree species are going to help in a very, very large way, especially in case of lean period, from I think especially the January to May, June till monsoon arrives. In that condition, these forest tree species or fodder tree species are the major contributors to the daily availability of the feed requirement of the animals. When we come to the fact about the scenario, the present scenario of fodder, I think over past 3-4 days you might have heard from different lectures. Just to brief you about the scenario in our country, most of the reports regarding availability of fodder in the country project an alarming gap. Huge gap, around 60%, 30%, 40%. This is the huge gap with regards to availability of green, dry, and concentrate feed even. So deficiency in feed and fodder is identified as one of the major constraints in achieving desired level of livestock productivity. We know that as I have told, that we are number one in the population, whereas the productivity wise we are number one from the bottom of the table. So this is mainly due to the availability of feed and fodder, the quality feed of fodder. Now everybody talks of quality. Now I think the word has grown beyond quantity. Now everybody, even the countries like Bangladesh, countries like Sri Lanka, many a time they reject our dairy products due to quality aspect. Quality, especially not the nutritional requirement. Quality is with respect to especially the aflatoxin level and all these things, because whatever crop residue we feed to the animal, that is neither properly harvested, neither properly dried, neither properly stored. So it has very high level of aflatoxin level which animal feeds, and certainly that penetrates into the animal product. And nowadays different countries are very much health conscious, so they don't want anything to be consumed which can cause some serious diseases to the animals, to the human beings. The feed resources available from the existing, in general, whatever the existing system we have with respect to the area under production, with respect to the crop residues, with respect to the animal feed production and everything, just which is able to meet the 40% requirement of our industry, that is dairy industry. So you imagine that with the 60% of dearth, we are running the show. With increased crossbreeding and physical stature of dairy animals, as you all aware that since past 2-3 decades, India has adopted the crossbreed, the different imported different breeds from elsewhere of the world, like HF, Jersey, etc. And now people want to rear these animals either instead of cultivating or instead of having 8 to 10 local breeds or something. People want to have, the farmers want to have 1 or 2 hybrid, high yielding animals. So their body, obviously their output is very high, their body weight is very high, and their daily requirement, either green fodder or concentrate feed, is very high. So hence there is a lot of burden on, or there is a lot of demand created in the market for the want of green fodder, for want of seed and all these things. So just to highlight about the supply and demand of green and dry fodder in our country. So you just take with respect to 2020, the bottom line is about green fodder supply and green line is a demand. You can imagine where we are and where the demand is. Whereas with regards to the dry fodder supply, the white line is with regards to the dry fodder supply, and the black line is with regards to dry fodder demand. There is a alarming and huge gap between demand and supply, and even though everybody knows, everybody talks, everybody tells about these things, but there is no concrete steps or policy issues are being taken to mitigate these gaps. Because maybe one of the reasons is that all our policies or all our efforts are directed towards our human population, not with regards to the animal population of our country. So deficit in green and dry fodder in India, this is, you just with regards to the figure, you just know that the demand is around 64 million tons, whereas in case of availability is just 25 percentage. Sorry, this is with regards to percentage. So you can imagine with regards to the green and dry fodder. And it is not with respect to 1 or 2 states. Almost 11 states in India are projected with the deficit of dry fodder, and only 7 states which has, I think, surplus fodder. So this is an alarming trend with regards to most of the states, and this needs to be worked out. When we all talk about, now I have told you about the livestock, what is that significance, the fodder significance, then how to achieve or how to mitigate or how to reduce the deficiency or deficit. So when all these things are discussed, the first question is the availability of quality seed with respect to the fodder crops. So you all know that seed is the basic, what is that, instrument or basic requirement which can, or delivery vehicle of new technology. So seed is important, basic agriculture input which has consequences impact on the crop productivity. Without a quality seed, all your inputs, all your further practices doesn't give you a profitable output. If you use quality seed, then only the rest of the things, the application of fertilizer, application of other chemicals and everything will give you the better results. So quality seed helps in meeting the demand of fodders, feeds and grazing animals. So suddenly there is a huge demand for fodder seeds in the market. And I don't know how much you are aware about, but just I will highlight you in the next slides that what is the availability, what is the demand. And ability of a given forage species to produce sufficient quantity of seed plays a very important role in the species desirability and availability. People, the farmers who wants different types of crops and their objective is to obtain the high biomass yield. So making available of these quality seed or vegetative propagating material at right time and right quantity is the objective of, should be the objective of anybody who is in the process of doing the seed production aspect in these crops. And one more important thing is when we compare with the rest of the crops, food crops and other crops, the farmers' needs are very variable with respect to the, when we compare with the demand for these fodder crops is concerned. because as I have told that no farmer is willing to devote his prime resources for the production of fodder. Either neither he want to devote the fertile soil, fertile land, either he want to devote the proper irrigation facility, proper nutrition, even the proper labor availability. So nobody wants to give his prime line. If he has all these resources, he will certainly opt for some commercial crops instead of going for these type of crops. So their needs are very variable. Farmers comes to us that they want some, they say many a time, sir, I want to cultivate the fodder where nothing is grown in my land. Either it is marshy land, either it is salt affected land, either it is slopy land, either it is rocky patch, either it is shady, either it is covered with orchards. There are so many, either it is coastal area, either it is, there are so many such variables. There is so many depends. His needs are very much different. So because of these things, the importance of these crops or the pressure on these crops are very, very high, because we need to have a technology, specific technology for those respective needs. And other factors like the site, the temperature, the photo period, and the crop management, harvesting, post-harvest processing, marketing, mechanization. These are all also very, very important part of these fodder seed production, which I will be telling in detail over a period of time. Now, question: now I have told you or apprised you about the situation that fodder demand is so much, and because of that, farmers want to. Because see, the fact is that nobody can replace the benefits of green fodder. Nothing can replace the benefits of feeding green fodder. So in that case, farmers wants to cultivate green fodder nowadays because which is not available in the market. Hardly you may see any market on green fodder in the market. Nobody sells the green fodder in the market. Only if I want to feed my animal with the green fodder, only option left with me is to cultivate the green fodder. So farmers are aware of these facts, and they want to cultivate the fodder, and they want the seed. But whether we are able to mitigate that demand or not is very, very important. First and foremost thing is that the forage seed requirements are not at all clear. As I told that the area under cultivation is approximate around 4%, but the demand for the forage seed is not clear. That is mainly due to there are so many reasons, because as I have told that this is a highly neglected field. Nobody the custodian of these data, what is that, the revenue data, the revenue land, that who is cultivating fodder crops, that is nowhere recorded. They are nowhere presented. So because of that, we are not at all clear about the demand. How much demand is there? That's why many a time what happens, the animal census are taken into consideration to calculate the demand for seed. Animal census are taken into consideration. The population wise, how much feed, average feed per day is calculated, and average to cultivate or to grow or to produce that much of feed or fodder, how much area is required, that is calculated. Then to mitigate that much of area, how much seed is required. This is how the back calculation many a time it is calculated to estimate the demand for seed in the market. And a wide gap of forage seed availability and requirement, as I have told. Demand for quality forage seed primarily from government agencies. There are so many government agencies, forest department people, watershed people. These are the agencies which indent very high quantity of seed, whereas the farmers' requirement is very, very small quantity with regards to quantity wise is concerned. And the scarcity is that, to tell you, apprise you of the fact is that just the availability of the quality seed with respect to the annual fodder crops or cultivated fodder crops is around 15 to 20%. With the, for example, like fodder sorghum, fodder maize, fodder coffee, fodder bajra, these type of crops, annual fodder crop or seasonal forage crops, availability is just 15 to 20%. You can imagine the deficit is to the tune of 80%. Whereas when it comes to the matter of range grasses and legumes, the availability is less than 10% or less than 5%. You can imagine the situation where we are now. And as I have told, the farmers' needs are different, and we lack even with respect to the production package of practices suitable for different niches are also not available. This is with regards to the seed requirement of grasses, legumes, and fodder trees. is presented here. The grasses is 31.5 thousand tons, whereas in case of legume it is 31.3, whereas in case of fodder, shrubs and trees it is 1.83 thousand tons. Estimated seed requirements with respect to different crops, I have mentioned it here. With respect to the area under million hectares, the crop, as you all know, that Barsim is very important winter forest crops in entire North India, and we import huge quantity of Barsim seed from Egypt, to mitigate the domestic requirement of our seed. Even though the seed production is done in our country, but the seed yield per unit area is quite less when we compare with the rest of the world or the Egypt. That's why import many a times works out to be cheaper than the domestic production. That's why we import huge quantity of seed. Then what are the reasons, just to highlight you, just to apprise you of the reasons for present status of forage seed availability is just around 20% in case of annuals and 5 to 10% in case of perennials. Many a time what happens when we release a variety, when we develop a variety, that variety or that the species or the crop is many a time is not entered into the seed chain. As you all know what is seed chain, you know that this is the seed chain we follow in with respect to almost all crops which are under seed production in our country. The breeder who develops the variety is the custodian of nucleus seed, and he produces the breeder seed with by taking help of his own institute or own organization. Then later on, which will be handed over to the different agencies like seed corporations, like state government departments, and other agencies which can take up further for production of foundation and certified seed, or in sometimes with truthfully labeled seeds, and then again transferring that technology or transferring the seed to the farmers for mass multiplication, cultivation for his respective to fulfilling his respective objectives. But in case of majority of these fodder crops, this seed chain itself is missing. We are IGFRI, for example, IGFRI is developing so many varieties in different crops, but the thing is which is not entering into the seed chain for further multiplication and distribution to the farmer, because there are agencies which are developing agencies or there are production agencies which are in between. They are not their priorities are totally different. Their target or their objectives are totally different. So they are not channelizing these crops through seed chain. This is totally missing with respect to the forage crops, and this is one of the major factor. Even though there are so many technologies, there are so many varieties to meet different local reasons, local requirements, but the thing is that which is not being fulfilled. And second reason is that the minimum support price. Where is the market for these? If a farmer wants to produce the seed, or if he produces the seed, who is going to purchase in the market? So nobody is there. Nobody is there. So in this matter, the policy issues are very important. Why not government should think on these lines? Why not government should procure these seeds? Why not the government should channelize the sale of these seeds through their respective outlets? As I told, huge import of Barsim. We are spending a lot of foreign exchange for that. We import a lot of sugar beet in the form of the fodder beet, which is being cultivated in large area, especially in Gujarat, Maharashtra, and parts of Karnataka, which is fed to the animals. And lucerne seeds, as you all know, that lucerne is queen of forages, largely cultivated throughout the world. We import huge quantity of that. No organized market, as I told, with respect to the minimum support price. No authentic database that how much is produced, how much is required, how much is targeted, how much should be produced. There is no data. Forests are region specific. Yes, of course, as I have told, in entire North India, the Barsim is being cultivated. The entire western part, central part, and parts of southern parts, the lucerne is better preferred or better. It comes up very well in that condition. And very different needs. So the forage requirements are, the coastal people want different requirements. The high rainfall area people have different. Lucerne doesn't come up under that condition. Barsim doesn't fit under southern parts of country because of high temperature, whereas lucerne doesn't come up very well in northern parts of our country in winter due to low temperature. These are all the different issues which need to be these are the reasons for the present status or where we are with regards to forage seed. To apprise you about crops and varieties in seed chain, only 41 varieties of 7 forage crops in Kharif. Only 7 forage crops are under seed chain in case of Kharif. And if you see, majority of these crops are annuals. None of the perennial crops are involved in seed chain. As what I want to apprise you over here is, these are, as majority of these crops are cultivated as dual purpose crops. Like you take cowpea, it is again for grain purpose, for domestic consumption, table purpose. Maize, sorghum, Gawar, even Gawar is cultivated as one of most export-oriented crop for gum production. And per millet, the majority of these crops are for dual purpose. Grains, they use it for consumption, human consumption, and whereas the residues they use for crop fodder production. And only a few crop varieties are under proper seed production chain. With regards to Rabi, only 4 fodder crops. With regards to Kharif, only 7 crops. In total, only 11 forage crops are involved in seed chain. In Rabi, Barsim, Lucerne, oat, Gobi sarson. That to Barsim, the indent for breeder seed is very, very less. Even though I have told you that we import huge quantity of seeds, whereas indenting in our country, seed production, as you all aware about that, the seed production chain is through indent system. Indenting is very, very less. So without indents, without indent, we will produce the breeder seed. That is important. So the thing is that majority of these crops are not covered under the seed chain. Hence, the increase in quantity of production is becoming very difficult. And as I have told you, I have already highlighted Barsim for northern, Lazarus for western parts, Congo Signal and Guinea for southern parts. These are all the region-specific crops. And another important crop, another important aspect with regards to this problem with this regard to this crop is that the fodder production and seed production in forages cannot be separated. This is very, very important aspect, because say, for example, if I am selling around 100 kg of seeds, if 100 farmers are taking that seed, their primary objective is to cultivate the fodder. I think very few, maybe 2%, 3% or 4%, they are going to multiply the seed. Whereas the remaining 95 to 98%, they are taking or purchasing seed from us for their biomass requirement. This is one of the important, also one of the important problem or hurdle in making available the higher quantity of seed in the market. Another important issue is that the problem has started with while it is born. The baby was born with a different objective here. None of the breeder has never emphasized on or never given importance for selecting high seed yielding lines in this case. Always the breeder's objective is to give the high biomass yielding varieties, coupled with maybe some qualitative aspects or some resistance to pest and diseases and all these things. But the primary objective of the breeder is to develop the varieties in these crops is to get higher biomass yield. So he has never selected the good seed yielders in this thing. So that's why majority of these forage crops are poor seed yielders or shy seed yielders. So that is one of the reason why we are deficit with such a figure with respect to availability. Low seed production in forage crops, as I have already told, that forages are not at an economical commodity in our country because we are highly humanly populated country. That's why we are unable to what is that decide, or we are unable to earmark the forage as a very, very important commodity or economic commodity in your country. Just to just to apprise you, you all have heard about different boards available, like tea board, coffee board, spice board, coconut board. There are so many boards. Why those boards were established directly under Government of India control? Because Government of India felt that they all are very, very what is that economic crops, economic commodities. They can fetch huge amount of foreign exchange if exported. So that's why they have started a separate body to look into the aspect of those crops. So just my question is, why not in case of forage crops, when situation is such an alarming over here, the availability and deficit is so much in with respect to this. So it needs very good policy issues, concrete what is that, thinking, and devotion of proper fund. There should be a separate body that comes under policy issues. Value of seed and high yielding varieties are not yet realized by cultivators and many at times by public makers or government departments. And another important tussle between for this crop is that this is always like a football. These crop, the forest crops are like a football. Veterinarians kicks from their side, and this side from agricultural people they kick. Nobody wants to adopt the baby because everybody thinks that it is not under our direct control or our baby. Veterinarians always say that it is animal health is our prerogative, not to mitigate their feed requirement. Whereas agriculture people always say that to feed the population, our objectives or our importance crops are the food crops or oil seeds or pulses, not the forest crops. So always there is a tussle between agriculture people and veterinary people. So hence, in that case, this become very low prioritized crops with respect to the state government agencies are concerned. Mostly breeder seed is directly used for fodder distribution, as I told, especially in the case of range species. For example, say IGFR Dharwad has released 2-3 varieties in case of range forage grasses. All India releases, even all India releases. But the breeder is producing the seed. We have the breeder seed. There are no agency to take those seeds and produce the seeds, multiply it on a large scale and supply it to different agencies. There are no agencies coming forward. We are directly selling our breeder seed to the farmers to cultivate the biomass, to get the biomass production. So in that case, what happens? It is disturbing the seed production chain. And there are other constraints in large-scale seed production is that, as I told, the proper niches, no proper niches are identified for different forages as far as devoting the land is concerned. No proper estimates. This is already lack of technical know-how of seed production. Absolutely, the seed production in forage crops are really challenging. If time permits, I will highlight how much challenge is there for seed production in different 1 or 2 crop example. Accessibility of preferred variety of forage crops by farmers at time is very poor. Certainly, if availability of seed of any crop is not there, why to think about preferred variety? And there are so many difficulties with regards to the cultivation of these crops. They are indeterminate growth, habitat, uneven maturity, blank seed. Just I will cover in detail in the next slides. Indeterminate growth, as there are range grasses, legumes. In some cultivators, there is no synchrony between reproductive and vegetative growth, which causes lower flowering and lower seed setting. Non-synchronization, there is a lot of difficulty in maturity. Many a time, seed setting is the biggest problem due to non-synchronization, because maturity is variable. By the time the entire crop matures, there will be seed setting up to 50, 60, 70% in case these crops. In many of range grasses species, they all are airborne, very light seed. If any rain, any heavy wind at the time of maturity, or if we delay the harvesting by 1 or 2 days, certainly there will be almost shattering to the tune of 90 to 100%. Low seed setting, as I told, that these crops are, because of majority of these crops are not given proper nutrition, and or proper care is not taken with regards to seed production activity. Proper fertile soil is not developed, proper irrigation is not given. So low seed setting is the biggest problem. Seed setting, as I've already lodging of crops, since as I told, these crops are bred for high vegetative growth, hence they are prone for lodging at the time of maturity. Then low density of panicle producing tiller. This is one of the example that the seed production with respect to bracharia in our country, with respect to bracharia in case of Indonesia, Brazil, and all these things. Because you see, there, as I told, within a spike there is a differential maturity. So what we do here is we cut at a time, whereas in rest of the world, they go to the land every day. They go to the crop every day. They just hold the earhead or they just hold the panicle and just tap it in a basket so that only mature seed are collected. So this is how many a times it will become very, very, what is that, labor cost, labor cost is very, very high in many a times. So blank seed is one of the important aspect of especially the forage grasses, especially these the seed setting in these grasses are especially Bracharia, Guinea, and all these grasses through apomictic. And blank seed is very, very conspicuous. What is that part of the seed lot? We especially in Bracharia, the germination percentage what we get here is hardly 10 to 15%. In Guinea, the germination percentage what we get is hardly 20 to 30%. Even though there is entire shape, size, everything is there, but from inside there is no formation of embryo and endosperm. And another thing is the seed dormancy. Seed dormancy is invariably in case of grasses, the crop undergoes dormancy immediately after harvesting. Whereas in case of the legumes, the seed hard seed coat is the biggest problem. Immediately germination we won't get. And there is again the side effect. Just to give one example, the Bracharia rugiensis seed what we are producing at Dharwad is able to give the seed germination to the tune of hardly 10 to 15%. Whereas the same crop, same variety, Bracharia rugiensis, the seed produced in the by Kerala Livestock Development Board near that Munnar and Deoni farm and all, they get the seed germination to the tune of 60%. So this is the photo period, and the side effect is certainly there with results these crops. Just blank seed, as I have told, studied through the seed lot, studied through X-ray, soft X-ray radiography. You see the blank seed, the filled seed, difference between filled seed and blank seed here. The seed lot is with just maybe you can imagine the same. Everything is the structure. Seed structure is exactly looks like same from the outside, whereas from inside there won't be any embryo and endosperm. So that so hence seed doesn't give any germination. And one of the important aspect what we lack here in case of fodder seed production or forage crops is that lack of the mechanization and post-harvest operations. Because as I have already told that, yes, of course, there is a lot of problem with seed filling, lot of problem with what is that, a light weight of seeds. Hence, there is it poses a lot of problem with respect to the with respect to sowing aspect and all these things. And whatever the seed shattered, what is the whether there is any technology or any mechanization aspect is involved to collect those shedded seeds. So these things needs to be taken development of low cost innovative seed harvesting and processing technology, because whatever the harvesters are available, whatever threshers are available, whatever graders are available, which are for food crops, which are not exactly suited for the what is that, the forage crops. Machinery for extracting PGS from fluffy grass seeds is, say for example, the Pennisetum say for example the Pennisetum pedicelatum. Here in case of these crops, the fluffy seeds is highly bulky, and if you have any proper mechanization or defluffing machine to defluff and the true PG, the pure germinating seed is supplied, then certainly it will help in the transportation and all these things. And machinery for range grass and legume seed collection is tedious and labor intensive. Especially in case of, as I told, the stylus and the seed production. At the time of maturity, almost 90 to 100% of seed shatters on the soil, on the ground. So we need to collect that seed by sweeping entire land. So we need to have some machineries, and especially as seed pelleting or coating is concerned, seed pelleting of grass is requirement for large scale rangeland, and especially as I have told in case of South American countries, thousands of hectares are cultivated, are grown as pastures. If thousands of hectares, it is not humanly possible to sow through the what is that seed sowing machine and all the things. They go for aerial sowing, and for aerial sowing, obviously they need to go for seed pelleting, so that the proper shape and size is given to the seed, so that the precision sowing can be obtained, could be obtained. This is how our objective is, to have uniform population, uniform growth with the uniform population to get. Hence, if that is possible, we will certainly be able to obtain the desired results or desired goal out of the crop production. So another important aspect is the standards, the seed standard. Why I am telling about this is that the quality control, when we are going for seed production or everything, quality is very important aspect. So in India, we have Indian minimum seed certification standards for a majority of the crops, and based on those standards, entire seed production program is taken up. And again, with regards to the seed testing or seed quality control in laboratory is concerned, we have ISTA methods. So we will be following those methods for seed germination, seed quality assessment, physical purity assessment, everything. And achieving high seed quality standards is largely the role of grower, seed cleaning or seed processing operators, and quality assurance. The grower is the seed producer, the seed cleaning and seed processing is at the seed processing plant. Seed quality assurance is through the certification agency or through the seed quality, seed testing agencies. So yeah, as I have told, the seed standards are really required to regulation of seed multiplication chain. The seed multiplication chain, as I have already highlighted, this is the seed multiplication chain is monitored through the seed standards. Then a certification of notified varieties, as I know, the certification is very important to ensure the quality and to multiply the seed from one generation to another generation. Labeling of released varieties, overall seed quality assurance is done through these seed quality standards. And as per Indian minimum seed certification standards, the first print was released in 1971, then modified in 1989, and recent one is the 2013, which is covering around 157 crops, 37 hybrids, 12 tissue culture plants, and out of which the 16 forage crops are covered. Why I am highlighting this here is that majority of forage crops or range grasses or range legumes which we are cultivating here are missing from these Indian minimum seed certification standards book. The standards itself are not developed in these crops. So if standards are not developed, then how to go for seed production? It is very difficult. So that's why IGFRI is doing a lot of work, and they have submitted a report to the Ministry for inclusion in 4 crops. 4 crops development of seed standard is in pipeline, and another 4 crops is to be taken up in the coming days. Then what is the need of the hour to especially with respect to the technological intervention is concerned for improving the availability of forage seed in the market is that development of variety specific and region specific package of practices for seed production. To tell you frankly, the majority of package of practices available in the market, available in the system for cultivation of forage crops is adopted for seed production. There are very few specific seed production package of practices available. You take any crop available in the system, because nobody has worked, especially the seed production aspect in these crops. And you all know that there is a lot of difference between the biomass production and seed production. So that we need to develop a specific package of practice with respect to covering the technological intervention is concerned. Identifying specific areas for higher and economic seed production of specific crop and varieties. For established product crops, suitable package and transport mechanism. We all know that especially a few of the crops like hybrid Napier, Pennisetum tri-specific hybrid, and all these crops, they doesn't set seed. We need to transport the rooted slips or stem cuttings from one place to another place, which is obviously consumes a lot of space, and transportation becomes very difficult, mainly due to the time limit is concerned, because from removal to planting, it needs to be done at the earliest basis. Whereas proper technology should be developed with regards to these crops, like in banana tissue culture, because they all are commercial crop. There are technologies, but whereas these crops, there are cost-effective technologies are required. And I told seed coating and pelleting of forage crops. This is must. This is very much required, as I told. Majority of the forage grasses, they are lightweight. Sowing becomes very difficult. And if you develop a proper coating and pelleting technology, yes, of course they are available, but in practice not done on a large scale in practice. And if they're done, so obviously if we go for sowing and everything, there will be better germination, there will be better efficient use of seed also. There will be, again, you can include with the coating and pelleting material, you can include nutrient, plant growth regulators, even micronutrients, whatever, even nano technology you can use with this coating and pelleting material, so that the desired objectives can be incorporated at the time of sowing itself, so that the crop production or crop yield can be enhanced with its better germination and vigor. And why I am showing this slide over here is the way forward is to cover this 75 million hectares of area. That is the only gray area for us. That is the only gray area for us, so that the entire scenario of the availability of feed and fodder in our country can be mitigated by covering this area. And the seed production atlas, yes, certainly I told the climatical requirements, the farmers requirement, the clientele requirement are totally different. So we need to develop a seed production atlas. So forest seed production depends number on environmental and its physical factors such as photoperiod, thermoperiod, humidity. Hence, there is need to prepare seed production atlas for the entire country for commercial seed production and marketing. And also we can include in this case the disease-free zones. And policy issues, one policy issues I already highlighted, that there is a need for separate body. There is a need for separate entity to look after these crops. With a dedicated fund, with a dedicated manpower, with a dedicated offices in different locations of the countries, it is needed. Because many a times, government, from government side, they always remember the fodder crops or availability of fodder seed or whatever, only when there is a drought. But of course, as you all aware that this is not an industrial product or whatever it is which can be produced overnight, if the problem won't be solved, which needs to be planned in a perfect manner, and through which we need to solve our issues. So policies, there's first and foremost, many times these are the issues discussed at parliament level. So many times there are so many high committee teams visited IGFRI. Very often the such type of meeting takes place, but there is till now I think there is no specific agency to look after the fodder issues or fodder availability, or making or bringing some change in these crops is required. Creating awareness among farmers, livestock keepers, or policymakers about new varieties. Of course, many places we observe that again that same old varieties are being cultivated, which are poor yielders, which poses other issues like anti-nutritional factors and all these things. The farmers need to be aware about the availability of good options in the market. Identifying specific region, areas or season for specific varieties with action plan in advance, so that the seed is available to farmers before sowing season. That is very important. Strengthening the supply of breeder seed, or even the entire seed production chain should be strengthened in this crop. And strengthening of seed chain through milk federations, as you all know, especially the milk federations play a very pivotal role with respect to the from lab to taking technology from lab to land. Especially in Karnataka, this Karnataka Milk Federation is very active. They are doing a lot of huge seed production of forage crops. They supply on subsidy the seed and planting material of these forage crops to the farmers at minimum rate, minimum 50% subsidy, so that the farmers produces the green fodder, and obviously the farmers realizes the benefit out of production of green fodder feeding to the animals. Upscaling the pace of release of new fodder varieties, especially upscaling, yes, of course, in nowadays, because in many there are very few workers in our country who are doing scientists. There are few scientists in our country doing work on the forages, and many a time what happens, there are so many technical issues for not releasing varieties frequently, due to non-availability of entries, due to not achieving a minimum requirement, 10% requirement in yield, and a jump in yield, and all these things that needs to be looked into, especially when these crops are concerned. Organized seed chain need for organized forest seed production is largely concentrated in the unorganized sector. As you all know that the forest seed production, rather I say that it is forest seed collection. Many a times seed production is not done, only they go and collect the seed many a times, where the quality is always compromised. Of course, they are not sure about the variety specificity, they are not sure about the vigor, they are not sure about the viability, and forget about these things, they are not sure about the physical purity of the seed lot. So that needs to be really looked into. For example, I will just want to highlight here the Styloxanthus seed production. Many of you are aware of it or not. Styloxanthus hemata seed production is done largely by farmers near Bangalore, that is Hindupur area. And the whatever seed is sold in the market is having is just having 20% physical purity. Not even 20%, many a times, means 80% inert matter or mixture that is being sold in the market. Nobody is aware, nobody is doing quality check, because the market is totally controlled by the middlemans. So these are the things, quality, many a times quality, forget about the variety specific in those things. I'm telling about the physical purity. And why not we should give incentive to the farmers who are willing to go for the seed production of forest crops. Why not? See, through agriculture department, there are hundreds of schemes in our entire country. As far as Karnataka is concerned, I know there are hundreds of schemes, especially for agriculture, especially for horticulture. And you take anything, there are hundreds of schemes. But why not for only fodder production? There are no schemes with respect to agriculture. Why not farmers are being given, should be given incentive for production of fodder seed? Especially Karnataka government gives incentive to farmers at the rate of rupees 4 to 5 rupees per liter of milk, But there is absolutely nothing or no concrete thinking on this line that why farmers should be encouraged for production of fodder seed. That should be a need of the hour. And sacrificing fodder for seed, why not? As I told, if I sell seed to the 100 farmers, they all are going for the fodder production, not the seed production. Why not? They should be given incentive if they go for the seed production. And if after collection of seed, that store or that straw or that the residue can be used as their feed for animal feed. But this is how it is required. The holistic approach is required to mitigate such things. Whereas the collaboration among different stakeholders for solving important problems, now we all talk, and in every forum we all talk about the PPP mode, the public-private partnership mode. It is really required. And in that line, the participatory seed production started by IGFRI in 2012-13. The year 2000 is going very, very well. We are producing huge quantity of seeds with farmers' participation, which I will be just highlighting at the end of my lecture. Just as I told, that the opportunities with respect to the as entrepreneurial opportunities with respect to the fodder seed production is concerned, so that you can think or you can replicate the same thing at your institute level, at your personal level, or you yourself can become an entrepreneur in fodder seed production. Enhancing the seed production involving Milk Federation, State Seed Corporation, National Seed Corporation, and all these things is important. And these are the very few agencies which are involved in seed production of forest crops when we compare with the rest of the crops. Like no private agencies are involved in seed production. Very few in patches. Whereas the NDDB is one agency, National Seed Corporation or State Seed Corporation, they produce especially the annual forest crops like sorghum and all these things. Regional fodder stations, there are 8 regional fodder stations located at Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, Hisar, Godhra. There are 8 stations. Like a few ICAR institutes, they are involved in seed production. Apart from IGFRI, there is Kazri, there is Maize Institute, there is Sorghum Institute at Hyderabad, Millet Institute at Hyderabad. Few private companies like Mahiko and all these things, they produce bajra or for hybrid bajra for fodder production and sorghum and all these things. And nowadays, the Advanta, JK seeds, these are all importing the fodder beet seeds, then other ryegrass and all these things, and they are selling it to the farmers. These are all different cooperative agencies which are involved in the seed production in different states across the country with the different crops. And this is how what I told in the 13-14 we have started, and from 14-15 we have started this participatory seed production in forage crops. So we are doing seed production on a very large scale. Entire IGFRI is doing, and as part of Dharwad stations, we are doing seed production with farmers' participation with respect to 4-5 crops. And we are the basic objective here is to make available the quality seed in the market, make available the quality seed to the farmers at the right time, at the right price. This is the basic objective. Apart from our objective, another objective, other objectives to meet the requirement of seed producer is that whoever producing the seed should get better profit or higher profit over existing crop what he is cultivating in that region. Second thing is the buyback guarantee. Third thing is the buyback price well in advance it is conveyed to the farmers. And fourth thing is the surety that what we are going to who is going to purchase the seed. These are the 4.5 points we are giving guarantee to the farmers in the form of memorandum of understanding on a stamp paper. We are giving in writing that yes, we are going to purchase the seed from you. We are giving this much price to your seed. We are going to pay you within this much of time limit. Everything we are giving it guarantee to the farmers in a stamp paper. And so many farmers now, I think around 30 to 40 farmers are enrolled with us for seed production of these crops, and we are producing the seed. This is just what I have told the gist of these points. Only thing is that nothing is given free from our side except the technological know-how and except the monitoring of seed crop. These are the two things what we are doing. Apart from these things, every input including seed, the farmers need to purchase from us a seed, and rest of the fertilizer and all these things he need to invest on his own. He used to produce the seed. We need to we visit the farmer's field regularly at different critical stages to monitor the seed crop. And once the seeds are harvested, the farmers need to clean it properly, process it, and bring it to the processing plant available at our University of Agricultural Sciences, Dharwad, for cleaning and all these things. Then later on, we will take the seed into our custody or store. Then we will sell then the bill is sent to the headquarters, and directly the billed amount is paid to the farmers to his account. So these are the farmers list, those who are involved with us for seed production of these are the pictures of few seed production plots in different crops. This has the crops which we have selected for seed production are those which are remunerated to the farmers. We have selected around 6 or 7 crops. One is lucerne, perennial fodder sorghum, then hedge lucerne, African tall maize, cowpea. Then apart from these, these are the 5-6 crops. Now I think this year onwards we are producing the seeds of drumstick also, because many of farmers are cultivating drumstick as fodder nowadays, and there is a huge demand of drumstick seed in the market. High density planting, they are doing it for cultivation of fodder and for mitigating the nutritive requirement of their animals. These are all different seed production plots, photos taken from different seed production plots. These are the crops, Styloxantha semata, I have forgotten that crop, and these are the crops we are doing seed production with the participation of farmers. With respect to Guinea grass seed production, as I once before during my lecture I have told, there is specificity with respect to seed production or seed collection when we compare with other food crops. This is Guinea grass seed production. Guinea, as you all know, that the Guinea seed is very lightweight. On an average, around 7 lakh seeds comprises in 1 kg of seeds. You can imagine how much light the seed is. We harvest the crop at high maturity content or physiological maturity, high moisture content, at physiological maturity of around which is having around maybe 30-35% moisture. After collection of seed, what we do, the entire panicle is enrolled in a airtight container or covered with a airtight container in a tarpaulin or in a gunny bag or whatever. And what it does is, due to high moisture content, there is high respiration, and due to high respiration, there is sweating. So due to sweating, what happens? There is mold growth, fungal growth we see. And after 2-3 days, when we open up the cover, there will be separation of seeds from the panicles. This is the procedure we follow, and after that we dry it and we sell the seed to the farmer. This is the after 3-4 days the panicle and seed separation takes place. This is uniqueness with regards to guinea. Otherwise, in other crops, what we do after harvesting, we dry it under threshing yard. Whereas in case of guinea, we do it other way around. This is Styloxanthus, as I have told, Styloxanthus seed production, very, very important. Very few organizations in the country who does the seed production of Styloxanthus. Styloxanthus hemata, Styloxanthus scabra, Styloxanthus cebrana. These are the 3-4 important species. And this Styloxanthus is a very, very important dryland or rain-fed range legume. When we seek any crop, when we want any crop for rain-fed condition or dryland condition, this is the best crop to be suggested. So here the crop at maturity, what happens? The entire seed scatters on the ground, and whatever the seed left over on the haulm or the dry part, due to cutting, jerk, and all these things, the entire seed falls on the grounds. And at the time of collection of seed, we need to sieve the entire land, and with repeated sieving, like this, with repeated sieving, we collect the seed. This is the procedure. So you know that you can imagine how much labor intensive it is, how much laborious it is, and cost effectiveness it is. So this is their very unique. Majority of the border seeds, especially the range species, the seed production or seed collection aspect is very, very difficult. This is a benefit cost ratio with regards to different crops. We have demonstrated successfully to the farmers that cultivation or production of fodder seed is highly remunerative than the existing crop what they are growing. Because of that, many of the farmers who has prime resources like fertile land, labor, irrigation, and everything, they are coming for seed production. And just I wanted to highlight with respect to the entrepreneurship part in this, many of you can become a seed producer over a period of time, because there is a huge demand in the market. There is huge dearth of quality seed in the market. There are no players. Whatever you are doing seed production, whatever you want to fix the price, that is the final. Absolutely no, because it is a demand and supply gap. Due to demand and supply gap, there are so many. Now I think from our station there are 4 entrepreneurs have developed. They are well-known name in entire state in our in Karnataka. They are supplying seed. One farmer is cultivating around 60 acres of seed production area this year, 60 acres, and he is supplying seed to the entire state, and even to the departments. He is submitting through tenders. He is supplying the seed to the entire state, and his turnover is expected to be around 2 crores this year. He is our MSc graduate doing the seed production in these crops. There are other people. They are nowadays using these social media platforms like YouTube and what is that Facebook. They are doing this business, and we are happy that yes, there are farmers who are becoming entrepreneurs, and we are getting good profit out of it. Benefits out of the participative seed production in general is that, of course, our own experience says that availability of quality seed in the market has increased. Farmers are getting the seed from wherever they want. That is important. People are, including us or our farmers who have become seed producers, they are supplying the seed to the needy farmers wherever they want through courier. And one more important point here, what we have kept is that whoever is doing seed production in collaboration with us, we have given 2 options to him. Either to submit the seed back to us, we are ready to purchase at the price what we have mentioned. Otherwise, we have given another option is that you can sell the seed in the market at higher price, whatever you want, whatever you are getting. Both the option we have given. There is no compulsion to the farmer to submit the seed only to us. There is no compulsion. If he is getting better price in the market, yes, he has every liberty to go and sell the seed in the market. That's why they are doing it. They are selling the seed in the market at higher price. Of course, there is no problem with us. Our objective is to make available the seed in the market to help the needy farmers to cultivate the green fodder. And hopefully, we are successful till now with that objective. So at the end of the responsibility is ours. We all who are part of this NARES, National Agriculture Research and Education System. This is our responsibility to look into these crops, to make grow these crops to just reduce the deficit between demand and supply. And at the end of the day, our consumers, the end users of these crops are animals. And we all are aware of the fact that we are very much attached to these animals in one or other way, so that our livestock productivity can be enhanced. And certainly, if livestock productivity is enhanced, the economic status of our farming community will also be increased. So I think this is what I wanted to convey over, I think, through this lecture. Thank you so much for your patience hearing, and any questions, I would like to certainly answer those things.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. If there are any questions,
क्या हो डॉक्टर साहब?
चलना क्या करें?
हमको कहाँ लेंगे? सर्टिफिकेट दीजिएगा ये बात का?
दे देंगे भाई। देंगे ना सर करके अपना पैर पर तो जाए दूध का दे देंगे आपको। सर नमस्कार।
क्या हम जाएंगे? देखिए आप दे भी नहीं करता।
आपको बुला क्या रहे थे?
Any questions from any side, please? And for want of any fodder seed, you can contact me or IGFRI or IGFRI Dharwad. Presently, we are having maximum quantity of seed in maximum crops, which is available. We can
any
send
questions?
it.
Any questions? Please ask. Sir is with us. Please ask questions right now.
I see, because I want at least a few of you young people should ask something, even though I don't know whether I was able to convey you the message or not. But the thing is that, yes, of course, I am ready to face the questions, answer your queries if you have.
I see one comment in chat by Sanjeev Verma. It talks about BC ratio is very high.
It is high. Yes, I do agree. It is high only because just an example I will quote. If a farmer produces lucerne seed production on 1 acre, on an average, he will get around 2 to 2.5 quintal seed here in this condition. And per quintal rate varies from 40,000 to 1 lakh. If he is selling on his own, he is selling at 800 rupees kg, 1000 rupees kg, 1200 rupees kg, but we are purchasing at the rate of 52,500 rupees kg. And around on an average, if he get 2 quintals of seed per acre, he is getting more than 1 lakh. And his investment is just hardly 10,000 rupees. And one more important thing is that I am not including the fodder value. Even per acre, he will get around 3 to 4 tons of dry fodder of lucerne, and the lucerne dry fodder value is again minimum of 10,000 rupees per ton. So it seems to be very high from outside, but it is practical. It is there. We have demonstrated, and farmers are doing it. And the farmers' feedback is so good. I don't know how to express it. Last time one farmer has visited us and he told, sir, in my entire life, I have never seen 3 lakh rupees in my account. I have never got that much of amount in my account. He has got it from producing fodder seed from IGFRI. He has received that much of money. So
There is one more question or comment in the comments. Is there any program to establish fodder cafeteria in KVK system for IGFRI?
See, there are so many times in many forums, there is a discussion that even last year our DDG has suggested to establish the demonstration plots, that is cafeterias at different agriculture universities of Karnataka, and we have sent a seed to all the agriculture universities, including veterinary university, including horticulture university. It is there, but of course, what happens many a times, we won't take suo motu initiative. It is all, if you are interested, you can approach IGFRI, we will send the planting material, you can establish on your own. But IGFRI won't come to your place to establish the things. You can only supply the quality planting material and seed to your respective KVKs. And one more question.
Ragacharya, you want to ask something, raise your hand.
Yes, sir. Hello.
Ragacharya, please ask if you are
Yes, sir. Yes,
ready to ask the question, please ask.
yes, sir. Sir.
Can you be a bit louder? Can you be a bit louder?
Yes, sir. Hello, sir. Myself, Dr. Parag Acharya.
Not audible, doctor, not audible. Please keep your mic
Can you
closer.
be a bit louder or come to the mic of your laptop or computer?
Yes, sir. I'm actually right now. Am I audible?
Little bit, not little bit.
Sir, I have placed my question in the chat. You can see right now.
Yeah, you can send it. Now I will go through these messages, these questions in messages. Any information about ryegrass? Ryegrass is very much specific to particular climatic condition. I have not. That's why I have not covered. But any information you want, yes, you go to IGFRI website. There is publication center. There are publications on different forage crops. You can download it and you can read it. Then another, any manual on forage crop production, quality, forage seed production and quality control, please send. Any manual, I think, as I told, there is presently no manual, but package of practices for seed production in few crops are available on our website. You can go through it. It is available. And sir, how is fodder availability in the country is calculated, and it is surveyed based on what? Does it include sources other than cultivated fodders? Yes, of course, as I told, the cultivated fodders are come under the green fodder and dry fodder, and other things also included. The other sources are also included. When we calculate the availability in our country, all resources are included in that. Among stylo varieties, which is the best for dryland tract in Tamil Nadu, as I told, the Styloxanthus hemata is for moderate climatic conditions. For about around 600 to 800 or 1000 mm rainfall. Styloxanthus scabra is for more drier conditions, whereas Styloxanthus hemata is semi-erect, whereas Styloxanthus scabra is erect, and which is more woody, which is a shrubby one, which is suited for even less rainfall area, below up to 500 mm rainfall area is there. Another one is Styloxanthus zebrana, which comes up very well under deep black cotton soil. Another variety is there, Styloxanthus guyanensis, which is suited for high rainfall areas, right? Can you say something about fodder production for small livestock unit throughout the year? Yeah, see, fodder production for small livestock unit throughout the year, if you want to cultivate it on land, of course, there are so many systems developed, established systems available. If he doesn't have the land, of course, he can go for the hydroponics as a supplement, not as a sole feeder. Hydroponics he can go for even azolla cultivation as a supplement, not as a sole feeding. Next question: any difference between COFS 29 and COFS 32? There is no variety in the market called 32. It is 31. COFS 31, 29. The difference is the COFS 29 was exposed to gamma rays radiation to induce mutation. So it is mutant form of COFS 29 only, and the difference what the parent institute claim is that the 31 in case of especially the seed production, the seed shattering loss is very, very less. Apart from that, I think the yield wise and rest of the wise, they have shown 31 is better than 29, but I believe personally that they are on par. Sir, I want to start produce seeds for market. Please suggest how could I initiate seed production with help of any agencies in the institutes. I don't know your location, but you can contact your nearby institute, or even you can contact IGFRI through email or whatever the source. You can start seed production based on, I don't know about your climatic condition, I don't know about your soil, how much land you want to devote, how much irrigation facility is there or not. It all depends on that much. But market, whole entire India is your market. By using the social media demand, you can, when you use the social media, you can send the seed to the entire country. Don't think locally, think globally as far as India is concerned. Among stylo varieties, stylo hemata yield high to other varieties. Stylo hemata is not exactly, you can't say the high yielder with respect. I think you mean to say that high yield, it is with respect to fodder, I believe, because it is not clear from your question. Among stylo varieties, stylo hemata yield high to other varieties. Why, sir? See, why cannot, all whys cannot be answered many a time, because totally different species. We can't compare those species. How to compare this? How to compare these species? So hemata is totally different, whereas scabra is totally different, or other varieties are totally different. You can't compare, and this why cannot be answered. He is from Hagri Bamnadi. Okay, you can come and meet, and we can discuss over a period of time. Sir, please, IGFRI overlapping. Sir, please tell us about IGFRI overlapping system. I am not getting that question. What you mean to say overlapping system? What is that? I don't know. So this is what give the link or contact with seed producers. Certainly, Umesh, I will send you the link. Those who are producing, you can discuss with those farmers who are producing the seed, and you can think on the same lines. So these are all, I think, questions which I received in a chat box, and hopefully I answered to the best of my ability.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. It was such a wonderful session, and most importantly, that interaction at the end was also great. Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir. On behalf of the participants, on behalf of the organizing committee, and all the parties involved, thank you very much for being with us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I once again thank the organizers, or rather the sponsor, because we are one of the basic organizers here, and I am one of course director here. So that I can't say exactly the organizer, but thank everyone who are present. And I see many of them are very young guys, starting maybe in the beginning of their career. Kindly give proper respect to these crops and proper promotions to these crops. They need all your support to be in the system. And hopefully, I think you all know that growing a blade of grass is like a punya ka kaam hai, right? So kindly do that and contribute yourself to the livestock sector. Thank you so much for your patient hearing. Good day to you all.
Participants can join back in the second session. Thank you. You may all leave.